the first video question.
Like, just wander around, engaged, and then like we said before, we have students to be either object engaged or person engaged. So right now he was quiet a little bit, so we might start off with the person engagement first, just so he's interacting with the person, and then slowly moving towards hug. You like hugs. So let's go ahead and sit on the carpet. So yeah, just to mark that we can play in this area.
Vem. Aí eu baixo de manchas ao suor. Just come on, vem. Vem, come on, vem. Come on, mama.
So we can start with person engagement, singing a song that he likes, and try to get him engaged that way first. Okay. Alright, so I think I'll start off first and have him sit. Hey,
Where you going? I got you.
So Mom, you can help me sing the song.
Okay. Listen. Los pollitos dicen pío, 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 cuando tienen hambre, cuando tienen frío. La gallina busca el maíz, el trigo para los pollitos cuando tienen frío.
So we can repeat the song just to, slowly get him to settle down a little bit and, de-escalate.
Los pollitos dicen pío, 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 cuando tienen hambre, cuando tienen frío. La gallina busca el maíz, el trigo para los pollitos cuando tienen frío.
Yay! So he had some really nice look, and you can see that I was, sitting in front of him and sitting at his eye level, and he actually made really nice contact with me. So we'll do it again, so he's calming down a little bit, and once he calms down, we can move the toys, closer to him and see if he'll pick one. Okay, so we can start.
Los pollitos dicen pío, 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 cuando tienen hambre, cuando tienen frío. La gallina busca el maíz, el trigo para los pollitos cuando tienen frío.
So he's calmed down, so we can roll some objects over that he might be interested in.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like it.
He looks at me, and since he doesn't have a lot of words, I can give him the word as really simple words. So any type of, gesture you want to make it more communicative, giving him the words for it or a sign for it. Predictable. So, I'll blow he'll say more and I'll blow more. So there's very consistent steps in this routine. It's
And I noticed you introduced like a pointing
yeah,
bubble.
and then I'm modeling joint attention in this routine as well. More! So anytime he looks at me, I'm gonna, take that as a communicative intent and then respond to it.
Okay. Because I noticed you wait until you establish a little bit of eye contact.
Mhm,
Right?
exactly.
He's looking at the object.
More! So you may be clapping, but I'm shaping it to be more communicative by, just doing more for him and letting him know every time I signal more, then that means I'm gonna blow more bubbles. Bubble! More! Bubble! More! More! So any vocalization, I'm gonna shape it into a word and also gesture as well. And this is something really easy that we can do. So you want to try this routine now?
Sure. Okay,
So when he looks at you, you can,
Okay.
respond to it,
do you usually look for his, would you
I-
kind of call his attention? And
No, I don't. So anytime just a very fleeting glance, I'm going to take it as a communicative intent and respond to it very quickly and then start the routine. Bubbles. Bubbles. More. Bubbles. Bubbles. So even that vocalization, you're going to shape it into
You're
bubbles,
gonna-
especially if you're looking at it.
Okay.
And then you can model that to your attention point.
Okay.
More. Bubbles. More. Bubbles. So good. When he was looking at the bubbles, you actually, pointed within his attention of focus where he's looking at and then model that joint attention. So that was perfect. More. Bubbles. More. Bubbles.
I think it also becomes easier for me because there's like a certain routine.
Exactly. So you want to establish that routine.
Should we stop and talk about it? Or keep going?
You can stop right now.
So you
Oh, wait.
can continue the routine, but I'm
Okay.
right now, changing up our environment, so pulling other toys over. So there's other choices around. More. Bubbles. More. And we can more. Bubbles.
So when you
And you can do it again. So I was thinking moving the bubble down here more so that, because he's looking down here more, so you want to make sure that you're always doing something within where he's looking at. More. Bubbles.
bubbles, I have a quick question. So I noticed sometimes there's like a lot of bubbles
can gesture it as well as something really simple for him. And it's a very consistent step where it's, you know, you blow
Tell
a
me when
bubble
you
and
want
you
to
say,
stop.
or you say more and then you blow bubbles. More.
Okay, so that routine went on for 11 minutes, and it seems very repetitive, but he's at, basically, we would try to shape up some discriminate actions because he's at an indiscriminate action play level, right? So he's mouthing, he's holding toys, he's not really able to do much more than that at this point. So the pointing is kind of a discriminate action that she's doing a joint attention point, but also the reaching, just popping the bubble would be, or touching something. So right now, you're really just trying to regulate him, get a little bit of a routine, and look for some coordinated joint looking, perhaps. Did you have that at all? It's hard to tell from the...
I think so. Like, you know, he gets really excited with the bubbles, and sometimes he will make really nice eye contact with us. I mean, they're fleeting, but they were definitely there, so I thought you did great.
Did he connect to the bubbles and back so that, or to the little bubble gun, so it would be a joint look, or was it just a look at you?
I think it was more of an alternate gaze. So
It was an alternate gaze. Okay. So it's hard for us to tell from the video or from, but when you're in the room, you have more of a sense. Did you have that sense that he was looking between things? So that's great.
Between the bubbles. I don't think he was looking too much at the
Gun.
At
But
the
at the
gun,
bubbles
but at the
to the person, which is great. That's great. So that's a joint attention. You know, it's kind of the beginning level of a joint attention act. It's just kind of connecting the two. And he's got positive affects, so you know it's a sharing kind of look. So that's great.
no, I thought that was a really nice and simple routine for him to even get into an activity together with, you know, the therapist. And then I think that's also a really simple routine that can eventually generalize to mom, which she can do on her own. So just showing her that you can have a really nice, high quality interaction with your child, I think is really nice that you can model that for her.
So one thing I wondered about, if you had these thoughts while you were doing this, you asked great questions, by the way, was the fact that we were waiting for him to give us a signal as opposed to asking him, do you want more bubbles, or more bubbles, and prompting him more. So did you consciously feel a difference, or did it feel more like what you would have normally done?
I think it was nice because it was, you knew that he wanted. When he was turning towards you, waiting for that moment of like eye contact, felt like that was his way of communicating. So it was more, I think it was actually more natural than saying, okay, do you want this? Do you want this?
Right.
What about this? Do you want this?
Right.
And I think a lot of people do that just because you're desperate. You're just like,
That's
please
right.
want something.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, but so he's got some signals that he could give us, and he's got some interests, and so that's really important to see that.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think if the activity or the stimulus is enticing or motivational enough, then the spontaneity of that interaction is what makes it really high quality. And, you know, when you're prompting or when you're recruiting attention, then it's not spontaneous. And so that spontaneity, I think, is what feels good about this.
So in terms of following his lead, you know, you were waiting, you were setting up a contingency for him to do something, and then you were following in on that. But he wasn't showing us by choosing a toy in the sense that we might see with the child we're going to see next. I'm sure he's going to have toys that he's going to choose. This little guy, I think he probably did say hug or something close to it in the beginning, so he's requesting hugs from mom. So it sounds like he's got some requesting skills. But so so this went for 8 minutes. That's a long time for a routine, really. And so were you feeling like it was waning, like it was time to move on?
I think when you brought in that toy, I think it was time. I felt like it was, as before, there were a lot of bubbles, and he just kind of looked at it until the last one popped. And there was a moment where the last one was popping, and he was already over here, like looking elsewhere. So I think when that started to happen, you brought in that other toy.
Yeah, and
to
you probably,
transition him.
you know, can feel it when you're in the room. And that's, you know, something to think about when you have really simple routines. And I know we didn't talk too much about expansion when we're in the room with mom, but it's really hard to expand on these really simple routines. So that's why we have to kind of think about environmental arrangement instead, bringing other toys that he can possibly be interested in playing with, just to change it up a little bit. And we can always go back to bubbles after playing with another toy.
So in terms of a routine then, the play routine had a little sequence of events, a really simple sequence. You had clearly defined roles, and then you used words or phrases at each step of the routine. So you can see how that kind of repeats. And you want to establish that routine. So it seems kind of repetitive, but children like things that are repetitive. And so you're going to do that until you've established that as a fun routine, and then you're going to expand. So I think in the next moment, actually, this isn't a very established routine, but it was getting good. And then you tried to expand it. And so let's see what happens when you try to expand to objects.
Oh no, that's not more. Malfunction.
Do you want me to just keep them straight another level longer like that?
Yeah, it's actually,
Okay.
you're really, really helpful actually. The whole of having him in your lap. More. Bubbles. Bubbles. So when he's looking, you want to just signal more and blow the bubble up. Otherwise, if he's
Looking at me or at the object?
even the object, because
Even
you
the
see,
object,
he looked
okay.
at it for like a second, and then you saw his eye contact just
Okay.
shifted. So you
Okay.
want to catch him at
I
that.
thought it was eye contact.
Oh, it
Okay.
doesn't have to mean it's great, but you know,
Okay.
kids with autism, they don't have the greatest eye contact. So if he's interested in a toy, you want to make sure you catch that opportunity.
Oh man, he's been interested so many times. I'm sorry, buddy.
So you can blow the bubbles.
What was the contingency there? Was there one? So was there a contingency that he looked at something, looked at the
I put the
gun down? Oh.
Just like moving other
that down
toys,
and he
options
looked
for
at
us,
it,
you
and then I
play
said
with it.
more
'Cause
bubbles, and
sometimes
then he
we
was
do
like,
the routine over and
like,
over, you
just
might get bored
that
of
way.
it, and it's okay, because
good.
you know, kids shift their interests.
And so what do you know to transition to another toy?
You can usually feel it when he starts, you know, being unengaged more than being object or even supportive. When he's, you know, when you guys are playing together, you'll feel that quality, really high quality, where he's looking at you and smiling more, but then when he starts like wandering off more, then you know, you probably need to bring something over and change up your environment. Car!
So would we?
Yes, then we would bring this closer to him, that he's interested in the car, so following his lead. And we can even model a little bit first, since he's not really doing anything with the toy except for looking at it. So showing him what he can do with this set of toy. So I'll start off this routine and see if I can build one, and when we do, I'll shift it to you.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to make sure that when I'm modeling, that he's like actually looking at it.
Okay.
Yeah. Car. Shh. Ready? Set. Go! So you see he vocalized and then I shaped it to go because he's clearly interested in this toy because he's looking at it while I'm putting it up here. Okay.
So is he shifting his gaze to your car? Because
He
we
was looking at
can't,
the car.
at yours?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we can't tell from the video, but in the room you'll know. So I think that that's an important thing to consider. So from the video, it doesn't look like he's really looking, it looks like he's looking at his car, but you're seeing him look at your car, and so that's when you're trying to shape it up. But how does that go?
He doesn't really take interest to the car. Yeah.
Right, and so so then you do it a few times and you let it go. And you go back to,
And then we actually brought another toy over the ball.
Well, I'm sorry, before we moved on, so he was holding the toy, so he was more interested in the toy that was closer to him, that was in his hand, than the toy that was in front of him. So just
Yeah.
because he picks up the bus doesn't necessarily mean he's interested in.
Yeah,
The
so
ramp.
I
That's
think
right.
I later took his bus and tried to roll
Yeah.
it down the ramp since he was interested in the bus. But that didn't really go anywhere because I think he just wanted to hold an object in his hand. So we switched it up by bringing the ball over and tried to create a routine around that. I mean, he kind of touched the ball a little bit, like kicked it, but I'm not sure if he was actually, rolling the ball and having a social interaction with me. So we shifted back to more person engagement just to get him back into.
I think I think it was like 3 instances. The kicking ones, I think they weren't really
Yeah.
like too, but there were a couple where he was just like, there was that intent, like, yeah, like
I think
rolling
again,
it back
the motor
this way.
control is difficult for him, and so just the slightest, this is all he's got. He doesn't have this.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I think it seemed at that point he was very engaged with you. I think even the kick, I don't know, I had a good view of his
Yeah.
face,
Forward to the
and he was
ball.
just like, hey, like.
We talked about how even for him sitting is a struggle, so just
yes.
every form of coordination for him is
Right,
difficult
and that
for him
ball
to
is
engage
creeping.
with you. Everything
That
from
ball is
holding the
creeping,
toy
yeah.
to
Yes, right. So you're going to see some children like this that are young, really young developmentally. And so if we try to start with him at a level way above his cognitive level, his understanding level, we're just going to be kind of stuck for a long period of time and frustrated, and he's going to be frustrated. And so we have to be patient, and we have to just think about what his play level is, and we just need to build stamina. Stamina for these kind of routines, stamina with being with the therapist. And it may feel like you're not really doing therapy, but I think that, you will have faster progress if you can just wait it out and help him regulate his body. He does need some other kinds of support. So one of our challenges in this environment is that it is a large room for the videotaping. It doesn't have the child, the infant kinds of materials that we need. And so that would help immensely, so that you're not, as a therapist, kind of fighting against his inability to set up. So later, he wanders quite a bit, right? And he's, I think, very comfortable walking and running because it probably gives him a lot more stability, really. It's hard for him to sit, but I think you can, again, build that stamina. So you let him, and actually I think that period of time, a little bit of that is good to talk through. Like, why were they just following him around? And what was your goal in trying to do that? Because it wasn't as if you were just following and imitating him. You had a structure in mind, you had goals in mind. And when those don't work, you let it go for only so long, and then you get a little bit more directive. You use your prompt hierarchy. So
I think one other thing that's important that Julie kind of brought up earlier too is it's really hard to expand routines such as bubbles. So we really want to think about ways to expand that at a discriminant action level, which is very challenging. So I think even bringing in other bubble guns if we had them, or other choices of little things to put the bubble gun in, and then he could request, or maybe different types of bubbles, big bubbles, small bubbles. Clearly we didn't have those materials, but I think those would be ways to keep that going a little bit longer because he isn't interested in a lot of toys.
it's going to take some time, I think, to build that. So you want to watch the ball? Okay.
So, he held the ball, so he's interested, so I can try to start a routine with it. Go! Ready, set, go!
You don't like that position?
Um,
Or my buckles?
yeah.
Or my buckle, okay.
Would it be easier if she like
Yeah.
her legs a little bit? So like he's
Easy
sitting
for
on
you.
his arms less so much.
Yeah. More. Wee.
So mom's trying to arrange the environment. He's got great skills. So this one could be shaped. It's just going to take a little time. Swatching though.
So any vocalization, I'm going to shape it into a word for him.
So at what point would you prompt his hands, have mom prompt his hands to catch?
I wouldn't really prompt. I mean, if he's not interested in just even like tapping the ball towards me, he's probably not that interested in playing with the ball right now. So I think I would probably switch over to other activities, and then, once he's established other routines with other toys, we might consider bringing the ball back, and he might have the gross motor skills to actually play with the ball, because he might not be ready in terms of his gross motor skills to actually play with this big ball, or it might be too heavy for him. So we could think about, bringing other types of ball that might be easier for him.
So it's more the materials and the environmental arrangement as opposed to the prompting. So you do prompt, but where this doesn't seem to be really at the right level for him, it's not worth it to prompt. It's the same thing with trying to get him to reach and pop the bubble. So he could do that, right? And if we waited it out long enough, he did do that. So, you have to decide what is he ready to do, and you can just prompt and it's going to happen, and he'll be able to spontaneously do that, versus I'm going to have to prompt something and I'm going to have to continue to prompt for it to ever appear. So we want to decrease the amount of time that we would have to prompt for him to be able to spontaneously transition. Does that make sense? Okay. Do you want to go to the very end, or do you want to watch the wandering?
I think we have the puppet after the ball.
Yeah, I don't think we clipped out the wandering piece.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we can watch this.
We have the picking up part after the ball. Picking up. And then the puppets.
So I just kind of want to show that after trying the two different objects, the car and the ramp, and then the ball, he wasn't interested in either of the toys, and he got a little bit dysregulated. So that's why I suggested going back to people games in terms of singing again, to just get him calm again so that we can switch back into playing with other toys. And then he kind of wandered off, and then he wanted mom to pick him up. And it's okay for the time being to just get him regulated, because if he's throwing a tantrum, we're not going to get him to play with anything. So the first thing we want to do is kind of, get him calm. So then we started singing again, and once he was calmer, we brought him back down onto the carpet so we can bring other toys around.
It did seem that when the activity was at his level, that he was more regulated. When the activity
Exactly.
was above him, then he was
Right.
dysregulated.
Yeah.
And so one of the issues too is when he gets dysregulated, to sort of give in to what he wants. So that's always a conflict for people that are very behaviorally trained, right? But this little guy is 2.5 years old, and he is developmentally closer to a truly an infant. And so he is behaving in ways like an infant. So we wouldn't keep, a little baby away from mom when they become dysregulated. It's all he knows how to do to communicate for his comfort. So I think, we have to sort of think about this developmentally and just move him. It's going to be baby steps until we can get him regulated and get him more engaged with people and objects.
I think though that picking him up is okay in the sense that we weren't really, the only thing that we were asking him to do was play a people game, because we were asking him to jump and he wasn't really interested, and then, but I don't think I don't think by picking him up meant that we were kind of giving in.
I agree.
feel like it was more like,
Oh, I
okay, we're letting you be on top of mom, but we're still gonna sing our song, and we're still gonna
It's
you know,
not like
you're
a
not gonna,
Right, it's
yeah.
only she picked him up and put him in the stroller and
Right.
they left.
And
Yeah.
all fairness also to him was that when I noticed when mom did pick him up, he tried to wrap his legs
Right,
around her.
right.
He actually thought that she was just picking him up. So I don't even think he understood
That it was
a game, you know, so that's really why I think he was like, well, mama's just picked me up, why isn't she holding me? And that's why I think also he probably got a little bit upset. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's what he thought was going to happen.
Right, so very developmental,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Yes, good.
And I was really surprised she said he likes jumping games because I've never seen him like any jumping games. And every time I've tried a jumping game with him, he's ended up in tears. So when she said, yeah, let's do a jumping game, I was just like, what child are we talking
You know,
about?
maybe it could have been that he's the kind of kid who jumps like on a trampoline,
Yes,
on a bed that
right.
bounces,
Different at
that
home.
naturally
Yeah.
bounces back for him, and he's not doing the jumping per
Yes.
se.
Yes, I would imagine, you know, children are different at home too. They have a different routine, so yes. Good. Okay, let's watch this then.
Todos dicen pío, 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 cuando tienen hambre, cuando tienen frío. La gallina busca el maíz y el trigo para los pollitos cuando tienen frío.
Yeah, so we'll keep singing it.
Oh,
Or we could pick a different song. He likes a different song.
Okay, and so then you went for a little bit longer, and you come back at the very end to have a happy note and to end on a song because that's what he really likes. So I'm mindful of our time, and I want to think about what we're going to do tomorrow with this little guy. Is it parent mediated? It should
No,
be.
it's
It's
still
still going to be therapist mediated. I think that's a good idea. Because we haven't even been able to establish much of a routine. It's going to be very hard until we know him and know what we can get from him to help mom figure out maybe some new ways of engaging him. So I'm mindful of that. I'm mindful of trying to give her a really pragmatic strategy that will help at home. And then I'm also mindful that we've got another little guy coming and we're going to go set up the room with toys, and we should talk a little bit about that. So do you want to finish with this little guy about what we might do tomorrow?
So like Amy said, I think we could think about maybe, you know, getting other bubble guns and see if we can expand on that. And will you guys have any other suggestions in terms of maybe
Toys? Maybe we have some other toys?
Well, I was telling you guys about, I know you said that was like more of a sequence, but he likes taking out of the little
The
ones like
rings?
that.
Yeah.
He loves just taking them out. And so
Okay.
he doesn't know
We
how
could
to
try
put
to
him
take apart.
in,
Take
but
apart.
he
Take
just
parts,
loves
yeah.
taking them
Yes.
out. And then we also have the phone where he just like picks it up. He doesn't really do anything with it, but maybe if we could, you know, or something that's like
So
more.
take apart.
That might be a little hard, but I think the take,
Take
apart,
apart.
would
Yeah.
be a great idea. We were
Um,
also thinking music,
music.
maybe as discriminant actions.
He loves
Drum.
I was gonna
maracas.
say, you
Maracas?
said you
Yeah,
like the
drum.
maracas.
They
He
want a
loves the
drum.
maracas, and he loves shaking. We have like a little one of those.
And
Tambourine.
that's
Tambourine
perfect. That's just at his level.
Like the
So
ones with the.
that's his level, that's right. Or a drum would be like the next level up almost, but we could try for
Learn how to bang a drum.
Yes.
Might be a little elusive for him.
a little
No,
what?
he actually loves banging.
Aversive?
the drum.
Oh,
No, he loves we did an imitation with banging drum. So at first it was just like, oh my god, we've done so much, but he loves it now. But I think he just
it's work.
I think what happens is he likes holding on to things, so he will like more likely just hold on to the stick than
And functionally
actually
use it.
Right.
But we can drum
Even with his hand.
with
Yeah.
his hand. Yeah.
Something really
That's a
simple.
good idea, so
Yep.
he doesn't get obsessed with just
Yeah.
holding on to it.
And mom has this great drum. I can ask her to bring it. She's like really good
Okay.
about bringing.
Oh,
She has like this little jamboree drum that you just like tap it. And it's like doo, 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 like it's very loud. It doesn't. It's like a natural noise. It's not like one of those
yeah, I know
battery
what-
operated.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. That'd be
It
great.
does make a lot of noise, so we can bring that in.
Yeah, I think those are all really great options for him tomorrow. Very
Yeah.
simple type of
Yeah.
toys.
I would want to check out the ball again with a smaller, lighter ball. Because I think that I think the positioning was really good because he was on the floor as opposed to in mom's lap, and I thought that was
Yes.
kind of a nice step forward. And I think that it was more of the size and weight of the ball.
Yeah.
What about a balloon ball? You know, those really,
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that,
Something
just
like-
kind of push that. I
that one
think
you can
that's
actually
something
expand
could do.
if you leave the little thing on it. So you can do, you know, something.
And also in terms of tomorrow, we were thinking we should definitely give him more breaks because he can probably last 15 minutes pretty good, but then after that, I think he just needs a little break
Yeah.
from all that, you know, playing.
So
Yeah.
we suggested snack and trying to work through snack a little bit.
And even maybe like letting him roam, because I think that roaming part ended up being a bit of a break, but it was an unplanned break and you guys were trying to get him to do stuff, but he was roaming, so rather than having that as part of the therapy part, just make that a break. So, okay, go roam, you know,
Right.
make
Yeah.
it more functional.
Yeah. Okay, so that's good. Yeah, he's, you know, it's going to take a little bit of time, but he's an interesting little guy, and I think has a lot of potential because he does have some interests. So that, and he's got some positive affect, which is really important.
And that's
So-
increased a lot lately.
Yeah.
Before he was we weren't getting anything out of him, but I think now he's just, his face lights up more.
Yeah.
I think that within a couple of months ago, nobody had really seen him laugh and smile. We had always seen him with this face, so.
Right.
So
Right, so that's great. Okay, so now let's talk about our little guy coming in. And he's at a higher level of play, but you know, it's not a very high level for his age. So he's at combinations, and we were gonna maybe have some toys that were just a little step above, and the combination type of toys cover several levels, so we'll have all those levels available. So,
Yeah, I think I'll bring in a lot of general combinations. On the structured play, he was generally combining the blocks in the barn, for example, so he seemed pretty comfortable with that. So I'll bring in magnetiles, blocks. We have a lot of different types of blocks. And then maybe some pretend self and some figures, just in case he wants to increase the play level a little.
Well, he was playing with the dolls yesterday and putting them on the
Yeah,
bed.
I'm going to bring in a
Uh-huh.
couple of dolls
Yeah.
and figures just to see.
just to see what happens, okay? So what else do we want to talk about with him? So he holds toys also, but it's a different kind of holding toys, right? He's more hanging on to things.
Well,
But
that was my concern, that if
Uh-huh.
once he holds on to something,
Uh-huh.
you lose him. Well, like we saw yesterday, his behavior started to come in because he won't let go.
That didn't happen until we got to the cup
fork.
and spoon.
Spoon.
No, that was the other.
The
that was
That was
utensils.
his twins. That was his twins
But
with the
there
fork.
are things that he like has, and they tend to be household. I don't know why they tend to be household objects. Like he loves brooms, he loves like vacuums, and he really likes the cups and the
Utensils.
spoons
So
and
to
the.
prevent, we maybe won't bring those toys in
Yeah.
and see if that helps.
But you know, even if that's something that's kind of disrupting his sort of concentration, at some point you want to bring it back in.
Right.
So whereas we might not have it today, although it didn't seem like it was, I don't know how big of a deal it was because we don't know him very well, but we probably wouldn't take it away. So I know with his brother, we took it away just to see what the mom was talking about. And he goes immediately into a tantrum. So that's something that we would probably not do. We just let him hold on to it. We'd get him engaged in a routine and see when he loses
Well,
that.
we did, I think you guys did a little bit about that yesterday, where he went on to another set of toys during the assessment, and he kept the spoon in the cup in his hand, and you just went
Just-
with it.
Right.
I tried to just see if he would like hand it over, and he didn't. So I was just like, you're fine.
Right. It's not
As long as they're
interrupting.
engaged.
Yeah.
Right, as long as he can play, and eventually he'll just drop it. It may pick up something else, and you just have to kind of work through that. But you don't want to make them take something because he's 2.5, and developmentally, yeah, you're going to have some of that pushback anyway. So it's not that big a deal.